welcome to this event. This is the second in the series of Look into Q&A series, where we're looking to speak to some inspirational professionals who are VI and work in a sector. And this evening is looking at acting and professional actors. So we're joined by Ellie, and I'll be speaking to Ellie in a second. And we're also going to be really excitedly watching some clips as well of our actors in doing their thing, which is really exciting. In our first event, we had a musician who played live, so we thought it'd be really nice to do something similar. And instead of making our guests perform live, which could be quite intense, we thought we would get some clips. So that's really exciting. Got that coming up. As you may well know, Look is a small national charity supporting VI young people and their families to thrive. That's through lots of different things, mainly peer mentoring. I'm a mentor and I message my mentee, and it's a brilliant way to connect with to connect VI people together, and lots of other events like this one. And throughout the pandemic, we've done lots of brilliant events online. So thank you for coming along to this one. As I said, I'm Rupert. I'm a Look mentor and a TVI, a teacher of vision impairment, and I'm one of more than 100 VI adults offering support, advice and guidance through our one-to-one mentoring project, which is brilliant. So if you are interested in joining the mentoring project, if you have a young person under 18 who you think would benefit from having a VI mentor, then please do look at the Look website and find out all about that. So the Look Into series was inspired by our youth forums, which have been running throughout the lockdown, where we would have weekly or very regular monthly meetings of young people, and we would talk about lots of different things. But jobs and careers was one thing that kept coming up. So myself and Ellen at Look decided to launch this project where we could make more of an event of it and invite people along to hear about how VI professionals have kind of adapted and thrived in their sector. So that's kind of where this has come from, and you're joining us for the second one. So thank you again. Today we're going to be joined by two actors. So Ellie is here, Ellie Walwork. Hi, Ellie.
Sorry about that. I think I was on mute.
No,
can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
How are you? Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Great, yeah, really good, thank you. As I said, we should have Grace as well, who may be joining us a little bit later, but we've got a few technical issues, but we'll get started anyway. So I'll introduce Grace in a second, but just before we do that, please note that the event has been recorded to comply with Look's safeguarding policy. So that's just to make sure everything is nice and safe. And we're hoping to stream to YouTube, but again, technical difficulties. So we're just going to get on with it. So thank you so much for sending in your questions during registration. And we're going to, I'll ask you to unmute later on to ask your question if you would like to. If you would not like to unmute, or someone who's asked a question is not here, then I've got a list of them. So I will put our questions to our guests. So I will, I'll make it really clear whose question it is. And if you are here and would like to, then feel free to unmute. So if you know you've asked a question, then get ready with that unmute button. If you are using a screen reader, then the keyboard shortcut is Alt-A to mute and unmute. Otherwise, please stay muted when you're not speaking. And also, please do ask any questions in the chat, or if you've got any feedback. It's really nice for our guests to have a little look in the chat and kind of hear from the audience, because it's quite weird just talking to your computer like I'm doing now, but it's fun. So please do use the chat, and the keyboard shortcut for the chat is Alt-H. Awesome. So Ellie, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to watch a clip in a second, as I mentioned, of Ellie at work, Ellie acting, which is really exciting. But Ellie, could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and about your journey and how you've ended up as a guest on this this Q&A event?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Ellie. I'm 22, just turned 22, so it's a little bit weird for me to say that. But I was born very, very early. So I was born 16 weeks early, and I've got a condition called retinopathy of prematurity, which essentially means because I was born early, my retinas don't work and I lost my vision. So for me, I can see like light and dark, a few contrasts and shapes, nothing really useful that would sort of help me around. I read Braille, and I also use a screen reader to access information. So I started acting when I was 11, and then over the years I've had a few different roles, and I also have been with Look for a good long while. I'm a Look mentor, a bit like Rupert, and I've worked with you guys in the past on other things, so talking about my earlier projects and things like that. So that's really how I'm here.
Great, thank you so much. That's great. So I'm going to, before we start asking questions. The way it'll work this evening, everyone, is I've got a few kind of set questions to ask Ellie, and then we'll come over to the questions that guests have submitted, which is really exciting. But I'm going to show a clip from a short film that Ellie has been in called Here Comes Frida. Ellie, could you tell us a little bit about the clip and about the plot in the film?
Yeah, so Here Comes Frida is a sci-fi short film that's set 20 years or so into the future. It was filmed in America in, I believe it's 2019, which is a long time ago now, pre-pandemic. And it's about climate change, essentially, and how much of an effect it's had on the world. And a young blind girl called Lily signs up for this lottery to take her up to what's called Upper Paradise, which is a big kind of almost heaven-like place where you get to be who you really want to be, and you get to be safe from all of the superstorms and hurricanes down on the surface. But inevitably, something goes wrong or interesting, shall we say. And it's all about how Lily navigates that, and how really she navigates the world being blind and having all of this stuff going on around her in terms of climate change and villainous activity, which I won't spoil yet.
Villainous activity. Brilliant. Thank you so much. I've seen the clip. I really enjoyed it. It's brilliant. And I've picked a kind of very dramatic bit to show off Ellie's brilliant dramatic acting. And just to add to that before I hit play, so as Ellie said, it's kind of set in the future. There's a little synopsis. So imagine if you went to the cinema and there was a trailer and there was a voiceover. This is kind of the description. It says, as yet another superstorm bears down on a desperate, weary city in the year 2040. A young woman seeks to redeem her winning sweepstakes ticket for a better life in a low Earth orbit paradise. So that's where the clip starts. You'll hear an American woman who is a hologram, and she is reading out a lottery ticket as Ellie, who's playing Lily, is making a cup of coffee. And it's about 2 minutes long. There is audio description, but I'm also going to share my screen. So I'm going to share my screen so you'll be able to see the film, and you'll be able to hear it as well.
Another golden passage. So let's get to it. The winning golden passage number is L9A5 Z1. There you have it. L9
Feels ticket.
Q5ZZ1. If you are the lucky winner, hold on tight to your golden passage ticket, because we're coming right down to pick you up and take you with us all the way to Upper Paradise. Ascend to a better place.
Yvonne freezes. The young woman stuffs belongings into her bag. She turns to the door.
1 second, I'm almost ready.
It's Russ.
1 second.
She opens the door. Russ enters, toolbox in hand.
Gotta do your storm guard now.
Right, sorry. I'm making coffee. Do you want some?
You got extra rations?
No, I won't be needing them. I mean the coffee. I'm giving it up.
Yeah, why not? It's gonna be one of those nights. The basement's flooding already. Sanitation's not picking up, but they're still giving out violations, because why not?
Russ, how'd you like your coffee?
Light and sweet, like me. Come on!
Russ struggles to pull a window bar.
You want to leave it up for the next one. It might be wise.
Yeah, sure. Your coffee?
Thanks.
You can take it with you if you want.
Oh,
Russ blinks.
okay.
Oh, thank you for all your help over the years.
Yeah. No problem.
Russ sees the bag on the bed.
Are you going somewhere?
No, why?
He looks at Yvonne on the table, next to the ticket.
You know, you gotta report it to the city. Your storm guards. Otherwise, they won't replace them.
I know, I keep on forgetting.
Russ picks up the ticket and reads it.
What are you doing?
What do you mean?
That's my ticket.
What are you talking about?
That's my ticket. Please give it back.
Okay, hon. You're starting to act a little crazy. Your ticket's right on the table. I didn't touch it.
Give me my ticket.
He glares at her.
Hey, I'm talking to you.
Wow, so dramatic. Thank you so much. Virtual round of applause for Ellie. Fantastic. So Ellie, that is a clip from your short film. Could you tell us a little bit about that scene or the film, or how did you find filming it? Did you film it in America?
Yeah, so I filmed it in New York in the Bronx,
Mm.
which was really cool. And yeah, we essentially, what would you like to know about the film, really?
So one thing I'd like to know, because it's a short film, so I think the whole clip was about 15 minutes-ish.
So the actual film ended up being 9 minutes long.
9 minutes.
So there's a lot of stuff packed into a very, very short space of time.
Yeah, and how long does a 9-minute film take to shoot? Because I imagine it's still ages.
Yeah, so we actually shot the whole thing over a weekend. So it was just 2.5 days, really. And it was a very, very tight schedule. We had to film it in this sort of abandoned house style thing in 1 or 2 rooms, which were really decrepit at the start, and they had like dust all over them. But the film crew cleaned it up and made it into, well, what the space was when it was filmed. It was very dynamic, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of the best things I've ever done, and it's something I'm really, really proud of, because the crew worked seamlessly, and I love them all and I miss them a lot. But that's so it was filmed over 2.5 days in that location. And it was really all hands on deck. So everyone contributed, all of the crew was valued just as much as each other. And I'm so glad for that, because it really gave me an idea of how something so short could pack a punch, if you'll excuse the pun.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, that's amazing. Even a weekend for 9 minutes is still seems like loads of time. But yeah, that's amazing. So let's go back to the beginning. So how did you become an actor? And do you need to go to drama school to become an actor, or university, or kind of what was your path, and how did you become an actor?
Yeah, so I first became an actor when I was 11. Funnily enough, Grace and I worked on our first project together, which is essentially how we started professionally working together, which was wonderful. And that was when I was 11, so I was quite young, and I didn't really know how things worked back then. And there also are restrictions. Before you're 18, you can't work, you can only really work 6 hours per day, and there's quite heavy restrictions on how you can work, which is good because it means that kids are protected and things like that. But I didn't actually go to drama school or university to study acting. I sort of just did more of an ad hoc style thing. So I did get involved when I was a lot younger in drama productions, but in school I didn't do GCSE drama, I didn't do A-level drama, so I didn't follow your traditional path down to sort of acting. Instead, I just took what I could when I could. But I did do a little acting course when I went to the Royal National College in Hereford, which is also where I had a look interview, which was great. But yeah, I really didn't follow what you would term a traditional path.
Ah, that's really interesting, because so my background's in music. I did a music degree, and I'm a teacher now, but some people on the course are now professional musicians. But I think because it's in the arts, it's quite similar. So you can go down that route, and you meet lots of brilliant people that way. But it doesn't really matter, because you have to have an interview, don't you? So could you tell us a bit about when you interview or audition for like a role? How does that work?
So at the moment, actually, what with the pandemic, but even before that, we were doing something called self-tapes, which is essentially you tape your own audition and send it off to the director. You obviously still have in-person auditions, but self-tapes are a lot more common now because they're just easier and faster, and you can get it done quicker. And you don't have to travel like to loads of different places to do your auditions. But it's kind of where you just essentially say to the casting director, this is who I am. If you don't like me, then you don't like me, that's fine. But yeah, you get given either a part of the script or just sort of some lines that you need to read. With self-tapes especially, you often have it where someone needs to read in extra lines. So with me, I got my dad or my mum or my mum's partner to read in the lines for me, behind the camera, sort of hidden. They're not actually on screen. That's only me that's on screen. But yeah, it's a really good way to show the director who you are and essentially just get it done quicker and easier.
Great, that's awesome. And that, I guess, we'll talk about accessibility later, but I guess that really helps. In fact, you can just do it with your phone, you know how it works, and it's a lot more comfortable.
You have to still sometimes rely on sighted assistance, what with camera angles, filming and line reading, but it is handier in a way. There are upsides and downsides, but that's the current trend at the moment.
Definitely, yeah, we'll come on to that a bit more later. one thing, so you mentioned that the short film we watched is kind of one of your favorite projects. What other projects have you worked on? Looking at your IMDb, there's some really big shows now. Could you tell us a bit about them?
Yeah, so I was on Doctor Who, and that was in 2018. It was episode, oh, let me get this right. That's embarrassing otherwise. I believe it was episode 9.
Which Doctor? Was that with?
It was Jodie Whittaker, so her
Right.
first series in series 11.
Amazing.
And I played a character called Hannah, and it was an episode called It Takes You Away, which is set in Norway, was filmed in Cardiff. I wish I could have gone to Norway, that would have been amazing.
Amazing.
But yeah.
And
so
probably on
some-
iPlayer, so people, if they want to go and watch, can hopefully
I
go and see
believe
you in
it's also
action.
on Netflix. If it's
Amazing.
not available on iPlayer, then it's
What's the
definitely
episode called again?
It Takes You Away.
It Takes You Away. That's everyone's homework after this. Go and watch Ellie and that.
I mean, you can watch it if you want. I find it really embarrassing just because it's me, but
Yeah.
and I was also in another BBC production called Call the Midwife,
Wow.
where I was pregnant. I wasn't actually pregnant, I was fake pregnant, but that was a very surreal experience. And recently I've been in a 10-minute sort of cameo in Britannia for Sky, and I was a blind druid, and I had to wear this absolutely epic costume that was just so many layers, so much face paint and body paint and paint all over me.
That sounds so
But
fun.
Pardon?
Sounds so fun for your job.
It was cold, but fun.
Oh, that's awesome. So talking about that, so obviously as an actor and having no vision, there's kind of certain negative stereotypes that we kind of see if there's a blind person in a show. Sometimes we see some kind of really cliched negative things that that they might be asked to do. Could you give us kind of some examples of things that maybe you've come across that are a bit uncomfortable and how you react to them?
Yeah, of course. So the thing I immediately think of is the face touching. So if some of you will be aware, there's a stereotype that blind people can feel other people's faces and sort of understand who they are by touching their face, which is obviously a bit uncomfortable and also unhygienic and also just a bit weird. Like I really wouldn't want to go around touching someone's face. Yeah, it's just not great. But I think every single production I've been in, bar like maybe one, they've had a scene in the script where I touch someone's face, which is a big no-no for me. I don't like it, and I think it's quite harmful because it sort of reinforces that stereotype. So it's either a case of emailing them and being like, I don't like this, or having to say it in person. The former of emailing is a lot more comfortable because you don't actually have to interact with them, and you don't have to be like, I don't like this thing you've done in your script. But I think it took a lot for me to feel brave enough to be able to set those boundaries, because it's all about advocacy. And back in the day when I was 11, there's no way I would have been able to advocate for myself because I had no idea what was going on, and I didn't understand how to properly say, no, I don't want to do this. Whereas now, it did take a few years for me to get to this point, but I'm definitely more confident in myself and able to say that I don't feel okay with doing something.
Brilliant. That's so good to hear, Ellie, and I think that's really important to share. So thank you so much. We will come on to questions in a minute from our participants, but I've got a few more. Pardon me. A little bit about the kind of more practical things about being an actor. So something that I don't really know how it works, but I hear a lot is the idea of an agent. So in music or in being an actor, you have an agent who kind of helps you get work. So could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so Grace and I have the same agent called Louise Dyson. She's with she runs a company called Visible People, and basically what happens is the agent gets you the parts and then takes it can be up from 10 to 20% of the fees that you get, but with an agent you get a lot more representation, and if something goes wrong, God forbid, then they're able to advocate for you, and Louise especially has had our backs on a number of different occasions for both me and Grace, and I know that without an agent I certainly wouldn't feel as confident as I do now with advocacy. So essentially it's a lot easier to find parts and be represented when you've got an agent. We both got Louise from the first project that we did together, which was really, really cool, and we've worked with her since we both were about 12 or 13, I think. So we've had sort of a similar journey in terms of agency for that aspect. Brilliant.
That's really good. So last question I will ask before we move on to participants. So with Strictly Come Dancing recently, the winner was a deaf participant, Rose, which was amazing. And I work with some colleagues who work with deaf community, and it's kind of really risen the awareness of people with sensory loss. And I read, I think I heard on the news that people signing up to learn British Sign Language has kind of gone up by 400%, and kind of, it's amazing. It's really good to have people with sensory loss represented on TV. So how do you feel, as someone who is representing VI people and blind actors, how important do you think it is?
I mean, first of all, with the Strictly Come Dancing thing, I think cross disability rep is amazing, and I love to see it no matter what happens, whether that's deaf representation, autism representation, anything like that.
We're on the same team.
Exactly. And you've got to sometimes fight alongside each other to be able to be heard or seen. With visually impaired representation and the importance of employing visually impaired actors to play visually impaired roles, it's not just a work thing. So when a sighted actor, for example, both Grace and I auditioned for War of the Worlds, and we got passed over for a sighted actor, which really hurt, I'll be honest. It was really not a pleasant feeling. And then, you know, it's a big problem sometimes in the industry. It's getting better, but it's still there. It's not just the fact that we lose out on work and lose out on money, therefore. It's also an authenticity thing. So a lot of you will be visually impaired, and you'll understand that a sighted actor, no matter how much research you do, no matter how much homework you do, you can't understand what it's like to be blind or visually impaired. It's just not something that you can fathom if you can see. You may be able to empathize, but you can't actually feel how we feel or react to things how we react. And so when you are a blind or visually impaired person who is working, you get it. You get how, for example, just to interact with things, to walk, how to read Braille in the way that a visually impaired person would read Braille. And I think that adds a huge layer of just realism to everything. And that is so valuable when you're representing disability on film and television and in theatre as well. I don't have much experience with that, but I know that it's equally as important. So actual representation and representing us how we are, not how you expect us to be, that's really, really important. And that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Brilliant. That's what an amazing answer, Ellie. That's really, really important. And yeah, thank you so much. And I suppose it works with the people in charge as well, the directors and people writing the scripts.
Yes.
Should, if for example, if you one day decided you want to write, then you can write with that authenticity as well as acting. So it kind of goes
we
up,
should
up
all
the
be
ladder.
part of, like, at all stages of production, and this goes for any other disability too, people should be involved in the production. So writing, production of just the script and also the film itself, and also directing and acting. Like, it doesn't just come from one facet, it should come from all corners of the industry.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Ellie. So as I said, we were meant to have Grace join us, who unfortunately Grace is not here. I do have a clip from Grace, which I will show towards the end, because I think it'd be really great to, even though Grace isn't here, to show off her amazing skills. But before then, we will go over to some questions. So Tim and Eleanor, I'd like to come to you first, because I think your question about accessibility and Ellie's needs really fits in with that last answer. So Tim or Eleanor, are you here, and would you like to unmute and say hello?
Hi Ellie, hi Rupert.
Hi.
Hi.
Eleanor.
Hi.
Hi.
What would you like to ask?
Eleanor is severely visually impaired, and she's also an actor. Wondered how, Ellie, during your auditions, how many casting people have provided you with Braille script?
Okay, so I don't actually read script using Braille, but I know that it is certainly something that they'd be willing to do for me. And I have asked previously if that's something they want to do. So in terms of Braille, I think because I don't have much experience with Braille reading for scripts, I would just go ahead and ask, no matter who the director is. And if they can't do it, then you can be like, well, I want it in Braille. How can you help me get it in Braille? I use my screen reader technology to read scripts, or I use a Braille display. I don't know if you've ever used that, but that can be really, really useful for just technological purposes. But in terms of Braille, I'd say it's certainly very, very valuable to read scripts in it, because it can give you just that realistic feel for it. So don't give up, and don't take no for an answer if you ask the casting directors.
We actually
Amazing.
The casting offered to send the script in Braille, which was very nice and unheard of. But the work that she's done so far, we've we've got an embosser, thankfully,
Mm.
and embossed the scripts,
Oh, that's awesome.
converted
That's
them.
really good.
The PDFs that they send us aren't really suitable to go straight to Braille. There's just too much extra stuff in there, so we sort of strip it all out and put the basics on for Braille. So there's less to read under the fingers. Eleanor uses a Braille Note Touch, so we do have a.
Ooh, I used that in school, so I know how useful it is.
But screen
brilliant.
for those just yet. It's mostly Braille that she's learning because she's only 10.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for your question. That's brilliant. And Ellie, in terms of a screen reader, just for those who may not know, what format is it? Just a Word document is the best thing, is that right?
So Word documents are a lot easier. PDFs are dodgy for many reasons, especially with scripts, because what happens is they put all the names at the top and it just lists off a bunch of different names, and then it lists off the lines. If they know how to do it right and they know how to format a PDF, then cool. But I always say, could you paste it into a Word document, or could you format it into a Word document? And if they don't, then I get my agent on the case, and then they usually say yes. Because I mean, if I can't read the script well, that's sort of game over for me. Like, I'm not willing to accept no for an answer on that.
Absolutely.
Like,
and you're not equal to your sighted peers if you can't read the script, so you need to be. Exactly.
Yeah. And
so,
if they're not willing to provide it, then
exactly.
If they're not willing to provide it, then they're in trouble, essentially.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of technology. Whereas, Tim asked there about printing Braille, which is the Braille printers exist, but they're quite rare. But anyone can attach a Word document to an email. It's very easy. You just need to know what to do.
And it's like with the Braille Note Touch, you can read Word documents on that. And on most Braille displays, you can just connect it up to your phone and read that way, which is what I do typically.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Tim and Eleanor. That's really exciting. We've got a 10-year-old actor watching us, Ellie. How cool.
That was basically how old I was. So good luck.
Yeah, that's awesome. Nathaniel. So Nathaniel is actually one of my students. So hi, Nathaniel. What would you like to ask Ellie? If you would like to unmute.
Hi, Ellie.
Hello.
So I've done acting before in year 6. I had to play a part in a school play, and it really fascinated me because when I was reading the words, because I had a script, I also had to face the audience, and I found that really difficult doing both at the same time. How did you find that how do you find that, like, when you are performing, or when you are auditioning, or when you are rehearsing?
So I typically force myself just to learn the lines beforehand, because otherwise it gets quite difficult. Like with scripts, essentially all I do is just repeat it over and over and over and over, and I run lines all the time. With Doctor Who, the BBC were very on top of wanting you to get your lines right, so you had to get your lines right essentially, and because of that, it kind of got drilled into me that you need to learn your lines, or you should learn your lines. And I find multitasking really hard as well. So it makes it easier for me just to learn them beforehand, so that one of those things gets taken away, so that I can just concentrate on either facing the audience or facing the camera, or just like doing my best as much as possible. And as much as it is irritating to have to learn everything beforehand, it's the best way to do it, really. And it can be hard and time consuming, but that's kind of what you have to do. Acting isn't always easy.
No. Thank you, Nathaniel. And Laurie and Natasha asked a question about scripts as well. So are you guys here? Would you like to unmute and just say hello? And what was your question? It was about a similar thing. Are Laurie and Natasha here? May not be. Okay, I will move on because I can't see them in the participation. But I guess that's the main thing, isn't it, Ellie, is repetition, making it fun. I don't know, is it just quite boring? I don't know.
Well, I force myself to make it fun by striding around my house shouting lines at various intervals, but well, my family probably would get sick of me if I did that all the time. So sometimes I just sort of have to like be in my room learning my lines, or if I'm on set or in my trailer, if I get a trailer, then I'll just be running through my lines as much as I possibly can and asking people to help me and roping people in to help me, and begging people to help me.
Oh, great, thank you. How about Penny McLaren? I can see you're here. Would you like to unmute? You have a question to ask Ellie?
Yeah, hi Ellie. I don't know if you remember me, a blast from the past.
Oh wow, hello.
Oh, it's lovely. I've been so thrilled. I've been following your career.
Honestly, I'm so shocked.
How do you guys know each other? I don't know about this.
Sorry, I used to be at George Abbott School in the visually impaired unit there. I'm still working with BI pupils, but we'll talk about that another time. Love it, absolutely love it. And you were one of the best things I ever did in my work. Really enjoy working with you. Anyway, absolutely fascinated how you're getting on. I just wondered, what has been your hardest role to date, would you say? And I don't mean just visually, just sort of, how hard maybe the script was, or what you wanted.
I'd say it's Call the Midwife, because I've never been pregnant, and also it's a flagship show. It's one of the really important big shows. Obviously Doctor Who has more viewing figures, but Call the Midwife is a household name and people love it, and so there was a lot of pressure there, and I knew that I wasn't just representing myself. I knew that I was representing sort of blind mothers, if you will, because I've never had a child. I was just like, how do I do this? And so I had to do some research about the 60s and how it was back then for mothers in general, and also visually impaired people and mothers too. And so that was a lot of pressure to put on myself. I managed it, but it did.
It was really, really good. I was on the edge of my seat watching it, actually.
Oh, thank you.
Really, really, and I'm not just saying that to be nice. It really was very, very good performance.
I'm really glad you enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Ellie, is that still on iPlayer? Can we still watch Call the Midwife?
I believe it is, and if it's, I'll try find out. If it's not on iPlayer, then I can find out where it is. But it's certainly available.
I will try and find, before we finish, I'll try and post it in the chat, because I've not seen that. I'd love to watch it.
There was a TikTok compilation floating around of bits of me and Call the Midwife, which was really weird when that came up on my TikTok. Didn't know how to do that.
I'm far too old to even know what TikTok is, Ellie, so I'll have to go on BBC iPlayer.
Yeah, look it up on iPlayer.
Cool, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Penny, and that's so nice.
Thanks, Penny.
You've followed Ellie's career. Fantastic. So we've got some more questions. What time are we on? Oh, brilliant. So we're aiming to end about 7. So we've got about 20 minutes, which is perfect. And I will show Grace's clip before we finish, which is about 4 minutes. So just so everyone knows. Finley, are you in the event, Finley? You had a question for Ellie. I'm not too sure. I don't think I saw Finley, so I'll ask you, Ellie. It was about your GCSEs and kind of what you did at GCSE and college. You mentioned already you didn't do drama. Would you, in hindsight, would you have taken drama, or do you think kind of everyone's journey is different, but do you think it would have helped you even more? Or
I think everyone's journey is different. I don't think I would have taken drama in hindsight, because as much as I would have enjoyed it, I think it may have almost polluted my work for me. Like, a lot of people can do drama and then obviously go on to be actors, because that's the reason you do drama. But because I enjoy acting so much, sometimes if I study a subject, which is what I found when I studied English, it starts to become more of a chore, and I start to sort of almost despise it, because that's just who I am as a person. And I think everyone's journey is valid, whether you do drama for GCSE, A-level, uni or not. It doesn't really matter, as long as you're happy and as long as you do what makes you feel good about yourself.
Yeah, great. I would definitely agree with that. I think that's really important. I did music because I loved it, but there was times when I was analysing a song I loved and it just made me not love the song anymore. And I thought, so yeah, having hobbies is really good as well.
Yes.
Awesome. Joe and Billy Sharp, are they here? Joe or Billy? You had a nice question. Hi,
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. What would you like to ask?
Well, Billy's typed his question. Hi, Ellie.
Great.
Hey. Hiya. He just wanted to know, shall I ask Billy? Yeah. No, he just wanted to know what your first role was, Elliot. Like, was it at school? Were you in any school plays?
Well, this is a kind of two-parter. So when I was in primary school, I was a precocious child, which is coded for I was really annoying. And I thought that I was going to be like the most famous actor in the entire world. And so I got involved in like drama club, in a couple of different plays. Technically my first role was in my year 6 Christmas play, which I hope there were no copies of anywhere, because it was very embarrassing. And I was, but my first proper professional role was a film called Imagine, which I worked on with Grace, who you'll see a clip of later. And we actually filmed it in Portugal, and it was a sort of collaboration between Britain, Poland, France, Spain. I believe there were a couple of Belgian kids there as well. So there were lots of different VI children, and we all took part in that film. And the premiere of it came out a couple of years later, which was very surreal because I was 13 and didn't really know what I was doing. So yeah, that was my first proper professional role where I was on screen, on the big screen in a cinema. And yeah, that essentially was what I did.
That's amazing. 13.
Yes.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you for your question. That was lovely.
Thanks,
Brilliant. Diane and Abigail, are you here? Diane or Abigail? You had a nice question.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi there.
Abby, do you want to ask the question or shall I?
You can, it's fine.
Okay, so it's interesting you're talking about how you didn't go to drama school and about GCSEs. That was really interesting, but we're still getting to the bottom of how we can get the support for Abby at school. She's doing really well, but she's just worried that because she's bottom set for everything, that it would hamper any opportunities that she'd have as she gets older. But she loves doing acting and anything on stage. So it's just, is education really important or necessary?
No matter what you do, what grades you get, no matter what sector you're in at school, it doesn't define who you are and what you're going to be in the future. So don't let that hold you back, because no matter if you get C's or E's or whatever at GCSEs or A levels, you can still 100% make it as an actor. Don't let that sort of hold you back. Don't let that tether you, because you are what you make things out to be. And there's basically nothing holding you back. So don't worry about that.
Thanks very much. That's brilliant, Ellie. I appreciate that.
It's great, thank you. And I suppose a bit like we were saying, Ellie, it's kind of getting out there and getting experience, kind of reading a script and kind of networking is, I guess, really important. So how would you describe networking for someone who's never heard that term before? What does that mean? Yeah,
so networking in a fun way is just getting to know people, chatting and getting experiences. You'll hear lots of people going, oh, networking is this blah, 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 really long words. But essentially, networking is just meeting people and learning from them. So that's what I found really helpful. Obviously, I'm quite a prolific Twitter user, so I meet people on there and we chat, and then we might get to work with each other and things like that, which is really exciting. But even if you aren't on social media, there are still ways to do it. So the best way to do it and to do acting is to just get out there, get your feet on the ground or anything like that, and just go for it, because that's how you get experience.
Amazing. That's great, thank you. I think that's really important. And I've built, just with any job, you build up a network of people as you keep going through, and it's so good to have someone you can just kind of drop a voice note to on WhatsApp and ask a favour, and it's really important. So
I mean, if any of the young people / parents need just any advice after this, then I am around. Like, you know, I'm here to sort of talk about whatever and to just give any kind of tips and hints and that kind of thing. So contact me if you need to, essentially.
That's great. Thank you so much. Just to let people know, I've found the episode of Call the Midwife. So it's series 9, episode 7, and I believe it's on Netflix. So
is it on Netflix as well?
Apparently, this is what Emma has said. Don't say, oh no, it's great. Yeah.
I give birth on screen. I can't deal with that. It's very strange.
Maybe parent advisory. No, it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, series 9, episode 7, if you'd like to see Ellie in, as she said, one of the biggest shows on TV on BBC, which is awesome. Brilliant. So let's just check. Brilliant. Had that question. We have got one more, I believe, before we have a little look. Actually, no, I think that's all of our questions, which is great. So what I'm going to do is, unfortunately, Grace couldn't join us, which is a real shame. Ellie, you work with Grace, so could you tell us? Yeah, could you tell us a little bit about it?
Sorry, Rupert. We just got a question in the chat.
Go on.
About what was your first acting role, Ellie, and did you take part in any school productions? From Tom.
Yeah, I think I basically answered that previously about me being 11 and precocious and terrible. But I was involved in a couple of other just primary school roles and things like that. Secondary school, I didn't really get involved in theatre. I'd love to get involved in theatre at some point soon, and I'm planning to do so when I get my life more in gear, essentially. But yeah, I sort of haven't had your traditional life path in terms of acting. You know, it's up to people whether they think that's valid or not, but personally I think everyone chooses their own path, and you are what you make of your own experiences.
Brilliant, thank you, that's great. So yes, before I show Grace's clip, you know Grace really well. What's it like having kind of a friend in the same industry? Do you guys support each other? How would you describe have you got different styles? Kind of how would you describe Grace?
I mean, I could go on about Grace for hours, but I won't. So having her also in the industry is just so relieving, because if we run into anything that we need to chat about, then she's literally on the other end of the phone. And she's an incredible actor. I've worked with her a couple more times since then, and I really hope we get to work together again in the future, because she's really good. So she's been in Doctors, which is a show on BBC, and it was really good as well. She's also been in a film called Signs and Gestures, which is actually being put through a festival run at the moment.
So that's what we're going to show.
It's been nominated for a few awards, which is really exciting. And she's also a musician, so she's a singer-songwriter. She does some really good music and should have some stuff out, I think, in March, as far as I know. So I don't know her social medias off by heart, but you should follow her, and she's great.
Awesome, that's great, thank you. And thank you for the questions coming in the chat. What we'll do is I'll show Grace's clip, and then we will finish with a few more questions to Ellie, if that's okay. Great. So as Ellie said, Grace's clip is called Signs and Gestures, and I'm going to share my screen again. I've kept this one a little bit longer because I don't use audio description when I'm watching something. This has got audio description on, and really clear, a bit like Ellie's clip, there was audio description. This one, for whatever reason, there's more of it, so I thought I'd keep it in so we could hear it, because I found that really interesting. So it describes the beginning, and then Grace plays a character called Clara. Let me just double check my notes. Yes, she plays Clara, and she works in a florist. The clip has audio description on, so that's the voice you'll hear first. So let me share my screen.
A petal falls across a white background as letters and words in Braille come into focus. Signs and gestures. This film was made by staff, students and alumni of the Film and TV Department of the Edinburgh College of Art, the University of Edinburgh. The cast includes a deaf actor who uses BSL, British Sign Language, and a visually impaired actress who has a condition called nystagmus, which at times causes a rhythmical, repetitive and involuntary movement of the eyes. The project was filmed in a trendy plant shop, Grow Urban, a light and cosy restaurant, left field, its decor of tasteful muted oranges, greys and cream, and in the studio of the Edinburgh College of Art, where the walls are hung with black and white sketches, while several students work at their easels. White capitals on a black background read Risky Whiskey, Lister Callista Films and Edinburgh College of Art present Grace Whitford, Craig McCulloch, Rebecca Robin and Jack Allen in a film by Eaton Dayway Jansen, produced by Rhys Smith. Early morning light falls on the close-up of sleeping Clara. She's in her early 20s, her long blonde hair framing her head on her pillow. She blinks her eyes open, clear grey-green with long dark lashes. She gazes ahead, her rosy lips in a dreamy half-smile. She holds a large red gerbera daisy in one hand, while the fingers of the other hand feel petals one by one. She gently pulls one out. It falls on her crisp white sheets and joins other scattered petals. Clara slowly turns the daisy, pulling out more petals. A petal falls across a white background as letters and words in Braille come into focus, signs and gestures. Viewed from above, Clara's fingers feel along a stem of greenery, beside red daisies and white carnations on a florist's countertop. Her friend Tanya, with brown mid-length curly hair, wears a grey pinafore apron and arranges merchandise in a glass cabinet. Clara smells a daisy.
Daisies? Yeah, dark red. The carnations are to your left.
They busy themselves among the lush and exotic plants.
Hi.
A A woman in a pinky puffer jacket browses amongst the giant ferns in terracotta pots, variegated-leaved climbers on the scrubbed wooden floorboards, and spider plants hanging from the ceiling. Clara, in her grey pinafore and her hair in a ponytail, continues making her flower spray. The woman takes a plant to the till. Tanya steps in.
It's the Happy Leaves. Okay.
Payment by card?
Yeah, payment by card.
Clara presses buttons on the card reader. The woman taps her payment card against it.
Right, that's lovely, thank you. Thank you too.
The woman takes her card and her purchase and goes.
Bye. Bye, have a great day.
Thanks, bye.
A view through the window with the reversed wording "Grow Urban" to passing traffic and buildings beyond.
Okay, gonna pause there. So round of applause for Grace, even though she's not here, and we're all on our computers.
I love that film.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful film. So what we'll do in a minute is if you would like to share, Ellie, your any kind of social media or ways people can post, people can follow you and your kind of journey, that'd be really great. In the chat, that would be awesome because people can.
You want me to type that in the chat?
Yeah, if you're happy to do that now.
I'll just mute myself whilst I do that so my speech doesn't scream at everyone.
No, that's fine. So yeah, as I said, that was Grace in that short film. And unfortunately, Grace couldn't be here tonight. She has nystagmus, just so people know about that condition. And yeah, and she also does music, as Ellie said. So Ellen is going to share, or hopefully has in the chat, how you can follow Grace as well, even though she wasn't here, because she's got some brilliant songs as well that you can listen to. So let me double check in the chat whose questions we have got to come to before we wrap up. Yes, that is a good one. Oh, okay. Update. Call Midwife is only on iPlayer, not Netflix, but that's fine. Okay, Ellie, when you're ready, I've got a few more questions, but thank you for sharing that. That's great. Instagram, Twitter.
All right, I think that's done.
Awesome, thank you. So if you would like to share and like to follow Ellie's kind of journey, then do follow her on those.
I'm sorry, I don't have Grace's info to hand at the moment. I can't remember it.
That's fine. That's fine. Ellen has posted it already, so we've got them both there. That's awesome. So a few more questions. So is acting with, again, a bit of my background in music, I know loads of musicians who kind of tour, but then also have jobs on this kind of other jobs to kind of support them. So how do you find that in terms of kind of having other jobs? Do you do other stuff as well?
It's honestly, it's the same. So with acting, obviously when the money comes, the money can be great, but when it doesn't come, it just doesn't. So you kind of have to supplement it. If you do manage to totally sustain yourself from acting, you're very lucky. But for example, I do sort of ad hoc work with consultancy. I'm trying to get a part-time job at the minute and things like that. So sadly, acting can't support me fully, but I'm okay with that. Yeah, no, that's great. And I think it's kind of realistic. It's great to say that that's kind of, it's your passion and that's kind of what you do. So that's awesome. Do you know about equity card? Is that something that you have to have as an actor? Oh, you don't have to. No, I don't actually at the minute, because it's a bit costly sometimes. There's a membership you have to get, and at the minute I don't have enough money to afford it. But it is something I'm definitely looking for in the future, and it can be very, very useful. Okay, that's great. But that's good to know that it's something that's useful that you don't have to have. Awesome, brilliant. So I think that is it, Ellen. Unless there's anything obvious I've missed, I'm going to wrap up. But yeah, thank you so much, Ellie, for joining us. Thank you for having me. You're welcome. It's been so interesting. I love hosting these events, even though it's the second one. It's kind of so informative, and I hope our audience, our participants would agree. Thank you for giving up your evening. So just before we finish, we've looked, there's social media that Ellie has shared in the chat, so please do make a note of that now if you'd like to, because once we end it, the chat will probably disappear. So if you'd like to follow Ellie or Grace, then do that. Our next look into Q&A has been confirmed. It is on Monday, the 21st of February, Monday, the 21st of February. So about a month's time. And we will look into being a vision impaired or a blind scientist. So we're going to be joined by some people in science, which is amazing. So it's a bit of a step out of the world of entertainment, because we've had a look into being a pianist and being an actor. So if you know anyone, and this is kind of my dream with this series, is people will share kind of the idea, if they know someone who's interested in science and is worried about adaptations and worried about that they can't do it, and then
we can help you kind of understand that there is lots of things we can do. I've spoken to a few VI scientists who may be guests, and they were telling me all about the equipment they use and how they're being supported, and it's so brilliant to hear, and I think it's really important to share. So if you know anyone, if you would like to come, even if you're not interested in science, please do come along, because as you've seen tonight, it's so interesting to hear people's journeys. But if you know anyone, please do share. The best way to stay in the loop is by going to the Look website and signing up to the email newsletter. The website is look-uk.org, and also on our social medias, which is Facebook at Look National, Twitter at Look_UK, Instagram at Look UK Charity, and YouTube Look UK TV. So that is it from us. Thank you again so much to Ellie, and I hope everyone has enjoyed this evening, and we will see you next time. So bye everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Bye, thank you.